When I started shooting videos, I had a massive problem that nearly made me quit. Whenever I packed my stuff to go film somewhere, I would feel completely lost. The moment I arrived, I typically had no clue what to film. I would just randomly put my camera at things, hoping something would look good. The question I asked myself were always the same. Where do I begin? What should I focus on? And how do I make my life look cinematic? My shots looked mostly amateur, flat and lifeless. And I realized there is a kind of formula that the professionals use. The funny thing is, most people never figure it out. But I'm about to show you the exact system I use to make my videos look better. I used to constantly struggle because I would show up to locations with no plan until I figured out these 10 shots that work literally everywhere. This is a default recipe that you can use when you really don't know where to start. It follows a simple template that you can repeat to tell any story, and I'll explain what each of the elements mean and how you can copy them. Now let's look at the recipe, which consists of 3 basic shots combined with more creative shots, and it's all very intuitive. The first basic shot is a context shot, and every single video needs that. It is generally a wider shot that shows the entire scene, and it doesn't really matter how you capture it, as long as it gives the viewer a bit of context about what is going on, where it is happening, and who is the subject. In traditional filmmaking, people often refer to this as an establishing shot. Next is the connection shot. And this brings us a little closer to the action, and a lot of people refer to this as a medium shot and like to get all technical about the framing from the waist up, but honestly forget the textbook rules. The point is just to get closer to your subject than your wide shot. And don't stress about the framing, just think about creating a visual connection with whatever you are filming. This is followed by a close-up shot, and that's where you zoom in on the small stuff that actually tells a story. Now, here's the thing. If you capture those 3 shots, you created a pretty solid foundation that works for any story. Wide shot for context, medium shot for connection, and close up for detail. So if you're ever stuck, like not really knowing what to shoot next, you can just keep on repeating those. Now, the cool part is that you don't necessarily need to follow the exact order. In other words, you can move things around as you please. For example, start off with a close-up and then give the context later to reveal where the scene is happening. But we will make it even better by adding creative shots that will make your video stand out. Creative shots are broadly characterized by unique angles. So if you're unsure, the rule of thumb is you want to put your camera in an unusual spot, and that usually makes things more interesting. And I'll explain what each type of creative shot is all about. One of my favorites is the macro shot, which is an extremely close up that creates massive contrast with the rest of the scene. You usually create those with a macro lens, but if you don't have one at hand, it's not a massive problem. There is a workaround in form of a pro tip, but we'll get to that later. But before, let's discuss shot number 5, which is an overhead shot. Now, as the name suggests, you want your camera positioned directly above, looking down. This is very useful if you want to showcase any activity happening on a flat surface. It creates a pretty unique perspective, and a variant of this is a high angle shot where your camera looks down at the subject from an elevated position. This makes things appear smaller or more vulnerable, and it's particularly useful when you want to show scale or create a sense of isolation. The exact opposite is a low angle shot where you place your camera very low, looking up. And this can make subjects appear more powerful and dramatic, emphasizing a certain feeling in the scene. And to me, it's one of the most reliable ways to add impact to any shot. The next one is the POV shot, and that is one of my favorites as it is particularly useful for storytelling. The way it works, you attach your camera directly onto an object or a person. And one of the best ways to do that is by using POV arms that you can buy for $20 on Amazon. I'll link one in the description. And it opens up basically unlimited amounts of really cool creative angles. Before I explain the last two shots and show you how I patched everything together, I want to give you a quick disclaimer. Remember our recipe. You want roughly 3 basic shots mixed with 1 or 2 creative shots. Now this follows the same concept as an actual cooking recipe. If you cook a meal, you need to stick to the core ingredients, maybe add a little bit of extra spice. But if you overdo it, your meal will become difficult to digest, and that is the same concept here. Following that food analogy, the core ingredients are the equivalents of, let's say, like pasta, tomato and basil, while the creative shots represent the spice in form of chili. But if you go too crazy, it will ruin the whole meal. Remember, less is more. Now, what happens to me all of the time is that something goes wrong and I end up missing a specific shot, and that really sucks. But there is a workaround in form of a pro tip that is brought to you by none other than Artlist. Now, if you're missing a specific shot, it's not the end of the world and you can substitute that very easily. I like to source those on a licensing platform, and there are various places, but my favorite is Artlist because they got one of the highest quality assets at very affordable prices. All I have to do is go to their platform and select footage, and I can filter for macro shot and jungle or search for all kinds of things to accompany my sequence, and I can add those without the need to buy specific equipment. They also allow me to download the original high quality files in log or raw format so I can match the colors perfectly with the rest of my sequence, which is honestly amazing. An alternative way to add missing shots is by using AI, and Artlist offers that as well. So for example, when I filmed this sequence, drone use was prohibited and I didn't want to get into trouble. So instead I just snapped a single photo of the scene. I uploaded it on Artlist's AI image to video section, and it creates a shot that blends in perfectly with the real life footage that I shot. They're constantly rolling out new features. You can now upscale everything to 4K resolution. They even support prompts in multiple languages. Wow! In case you're interested in getting a plan, they start at only $9.99 for music, but I recommend Artlist Max for virtually everything you need for less than like $40. And also make sure to check out their 100K fund. For the 3rd year in a row, they're giving away $100,000 for one person to make their creative dream a reality. Your idea can lead to really big things, so just submit it in the link in the description. Thank you so much, Artlist, and let's continue with shot number 9, which is a reflection shot. You can point your camera at mirrors, glass, water, or any shiny surface to add visual interest and symmetry to your footage. Reflections tend to give your shots a more polished, cinematic quality that viewers subconsciously notice. And last but not least is shot number 10, and that means shooting through objects to frame your subject organically. One of the easiest ways is by simply placing something very close to your lens, and that instantly makes your shots feel more layered. And last but not least, I want to give you a couple of bonus tricks. Number 1, not all of the shots you saw in this video were filmed on the same day. My secret trick is wearing a black t-shirt so I can patch together footage from multiple filming sessions without the viewer noticing. However, you need to be careful with this. Make sure to pick shots that have similar light and weather conditions. For example, most of the shots I used were filmed under the tree cover in the shade. But I also managed to capture 2 other types of shots that look pretty cool. One, a little bit of rain, and another, a sunny scene. They look pretty amazing, but I couldn't find any way to match the mood of the rest of my video, so I decided not to include them at all. Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. If you like this one, you might also want to check out that video right here, where I explain how to create a halation effect to make your sequence look more vintage and cinematic. And with that said, I will see you guys one of the next ones.